Hello and welcome to Module 1. So, Module 1 will be exploring the key aspects of adolescents' mental health and emotional health, how it is affected by stress, relationships, and other factors. So, today's lecture is Lecture 1 and we'll be understanding the importance of mental and emotional health during adolescence. So, let's get started. So, let's look at what we'll be covering in today's lecture. We'll be understanding adolescence, we'll explore what is mental health and emotional health, we'll understand the different developments that happen during adolescence like emotional fluctuations, cognitive changes. We'll also understand identity formation, peer pressure, social pressure, academic pressure during adolescence, and the role of support system and what are the management strategies that adolescents can apply to successfully overcome these challenges. And towards the end, we will explore the mental health awareness and how it is important, especially during adolescent phase. So, adolescence is a critical development phase in a human being. So, it is often defined as, a junction station between childhood and adulthood. And many definitions also tell that adolescence begins with biological changes and ends with cultural roles. So, the American Psychological Association defines adolescence as the critical stage, critical phase of life, keeping the chronological age between 11 to 18 years, and it keeps in mind the areas of development like social, cognitive, emotional. So, now that we looked at the changes, that the definitions of adolescence, we understood that there are so many fluctuations that are happening, and hence it becomes very important for us to understand that adolescence phase is not just about hormonal changes or just the shifts happening, but it is also about different developments like identity development, self-esteem, emotional health, etc. This makes mental health and emotional health very important. So, let's discuss about that. According to the WHO, mental health can be defined as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes their own abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to contribute to their community. So, in adolescence, this will include developing identity and self-esteem, managing academic and social pressures, making independent decisions, and showing resilience in the face of challenges. Whereas emotional health refers to the ability to understand, express, and manage emotions effectively. So, during adolescence, emotional health will involve recognizing and naming emotions, empathy towards others, healthy expression of feelings, coping mechanisms for emotional ups and downs. So, now let's learn about the changes that happen on a deeper level. It is very important because it will mark the adulthood, and like the growth that the adolescence is having will be shaped by all the theories that we'll be explaining right now. So, the first development is the biological, then there is emotional, cognitive, and social relational changes that are happening. So, now let us look at the changes that are happening during adolescence. So, the biological changes that occur during adolescence will include adolescents hitting their puberty. So, as adolescents are hitting their puberty, we know that there is weight changes, there is height changes, there are many developments happening along with sexual maturity. So, when we are looking at cognitive and emotional development, we see that there is a brain development rapidly happening in adolescence. So, mainly when we are looking at that, so the prefrontal cortex of the brain is slowly developing. So, that is the area that is looking at self-control, judgment. And then there is this limbic system. So, the limbic system is the area of the brain that will look at the emotions and reward system. So, limbic system is rapidly developing, whereas the prefrontal cortex is slowly developing, which leads to conflict. So, even though adolescents will be making decisions, they may end up making some impulsive decisions because of the limbic system development. So, the ups and downs that are happening in adolescence can better be described by some of the developmental theories that were given over the years. So, I have couple of theories that I will be explaining, and it will help you to understand the various ups and downs, the changes, why adolescents behave, think or feel in a certain way. So the first theory is Erikson's psychosocial theory. So according to Erikson, the phase of adolescence is where the ego is developing. So Erikson says that ego plays a very positive role in the development of adolescence. So as the ego is developing, the adolescents are exploring their environment. They are being a part of the society, contributing, trying to form an identity. It is also a time when adolescents are exploring their independence, and a conflict arises at this phase, the adolescence, and Erikson defined it as identity versus role confusion. So as I said, that adolescents are trying to form their identity, being a part of the group they are exploring. So when an adolescent is successfully able to do that, they'll be, their self-esteem will improve, and then they'll have the sense of identity being developed. But if an adolescent is having confusions, then this will lead to self-doubts in the future, in their adulthood. So it is very important that adolescents are able to navigate this identity versus role confusion effectively. And while they are trying to navigate this phase, very important system is involved, that is the peer group, that is the system that adolescents are exposed to on a daily basis, that is the peer groups around them. So associated to this is another theory, that is the Bronfenbrenner's ecological model. So Bronfenbrenner said that adolescents' life are shaped by the systems, the layers of the environment in which they live in. So the key systems that Bronfenbrenner explained, there are 5 systems. So the first is called the microsystem. So microsystem is more like the immediate environment of the adolescent, like maybe the parents, the peers, the teachers that live around them. Then the second is the mesosystem. So in mesosystem, it involves the interaction between the microsystems. That is, suppose the parents are interacting with the teachers, school teachers, or they are interacting with the peers, that is the mesosystem. Then we have the exosystem. So exosystem is the indirect environment of the child. So suppose the parents is one of their parent is working, so the workspace of the parent can be called as an exosystem. So we have the macro system next, and the chronosystem. So the macro system is more about cultural values or the laws of the society that in which the child is staying. Then we have the chronosystem that talks about the changes over time. So suppose a child is shifting a city, or the effect of digital era on adolescent's life. So these can be termed as chronosystem. The next theory is Piaget's theory. So it's more about the cognitive changes that are occurring during adolescent life. So this theory is called the Piaget's cognitive development theory. So what Piaget says is that the adolescence phase is when they enter the formal operational thought. So at this phase, what happens is adolescents are able to form a hypothesis of any situation. They're able to form a hypothesis, and then they're able to deduce a logic. So because there are so many cognitive changes happening at this phase, Piaget says that there are 2 distortions that occur. So one is imaginary audience and one is personal fable. So when we are talking about imaginary audience, what it says is that adolescents have the tendency to feel that they are the center of the attention, center of everyone's attention. So because of this, what happens is that they become very self-conscious. So you would see that adolescents tend to become very self-conscious. So that is the developmental stage as described by Piaget, and it is a form of distortion that is happening, because of which they tend to become very self-conscious. Then the other is personal fable. In this, they feel that they are being observed by others and that others are thinking about them. So they have a high regard about their own self. So these distortions sometimes may be positive, but the negative effect is that adolescents may, because they feel that they are being observed by other people and being judged. So what they may do is that they may get into negative behaviors. They may feel that peers are watching them and judging, so I have to be a part of the group. So they may end in negative behaviors like smoking, drinking, or any other substance, or other forms of behaviors. Another form of cognitive change that happens is idealism and criticism. So adolescents tend to view an ideal view of, the human life. They start challenging everything that is around them. So they will challenge the religion, politics, and have an idealistic view. So they will view the world without any injustice. So it leads to a conflict with, someone above them, like maybe a parents, especially because there is a conflict between their idealistic view versus their parents' realistic view. So because of this conflict, again, they tend to detach from their parents. So then we have the Vygotsky's sociocultural theory of adolescence. So Vygotsky says that adolescents' thinking is developing, and it is mostly shaped by with whom they are and what they are doing. So we know that adolescents, they are learning things and they may not be the experts of everything that is happening around them. So Vygotsky puts up the term zone of proximal development. So this zone of proximal development says that adolescents may not be expert in a particular activity, but with support from maybe people who are an expert like parents, teachers or peers, they can learn to deal with, such work. So he gave the concept of scaffolding, which means that, parents or the peers or the teachers are giving some kind of hint or reward. So it will be happening in a step by step way, so that the activity that the child is learning, they can learn it in a step by step form, so that they reach the expertise, and then the scaffolding can be reduced or removed by the authority figure. So Vygotsky's theory also says that in adolescence there is increased peer interaction, and this also is very crucial in their thinking patterns. So they learn, they shift from concrete to more abstract, critical and contextual understanding. So the last theory is Freud's defense mechanisms. So when we are talking about Freud, we understand the importance of unconsciousness that he talks about the unconscious mind. So what Freud says is that defense mechanisms that we all tend to apply, mostly unconscious way. So it says that even adolescents tend to apply many defense mechanisms, especially to protect themselves from emotional pain and anxiety. So he talks about certain common defense mechanisms that are seen during adolescence, that is projection. So that is more about how they attribute their own feelings to others. Then there is rationalization, that when something wrong happens, they will justify their behavior to avoid guilt. Then there is denial, where they tend to refuse to accept reality. So suppose they failed in an exam, so they will tend to refuse that, that has happened. Then we have regression. So regression is when adolescent is acting younger than their age. So suppose some stressful event occurred, they will tend to, just shift back to a younger stage of development. Then we have displacement. So that is another defense mechanism where they are redirecting their anger towards safer targets. So suppose they are in school and then their teacher scolded, so they would come back. So they cannot show the anger to the teacher, so they would come back to their home and then they would show their anger to maybe a sibling. So that is what displacement is. So now that we understood the different changes, developments that are happening, like cognitive changes, emotional fluctuations, physical changes, biological changes. So now let us talk about how adolescents can navigate through these changes, the developments. There are certain techniques that everyone can apply, especially in their adolescent phase, and it will help them to get an awareness of themselves better. So let's get deeper into these techniques. So the first is mindfulness and deep breathing. So adolescents are constantly having these conflict, the developments are happening. So it's very important that they are aware of what is going on within them and around them. So practicing mindfulness is a very excellent way to do that, where they are aware of what is happening within them and around them. So how can adolescents practice mindfulness? So it can be practiced through different techniques. So maybe they can do some mindfulness meditation, maybe some body scan exercise or guided imagery. They can also do breathing technique. So breathing breathing is something that we are doing on a normal automatic way. So when adolescents will be practicing deep breathing exercises, it is going to act as an anchor where it will immediately bring you back to the present moment. So what adolescent can do is that practice this box breathing, because it is a very easy way to come back to the present moment. So how they can do is imagine a virtual box, like a square box, and then they can imagine that their hand is moving from one side to the other while try to draw the box. So as they are doing that, so as they are moving from one side to the other, they can breathe in for 4 seconds, then pause their breath for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold your breath for 4 seconds again. So breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. So for 4 seconds, breathing in as slowly as possible and breathing out as slowly as possible. So this will help them to calm their nervous system. And then there are many different breathing techniques as well. One is what we call as the diaphragmatic breathing, where they're keeping their hand on the chest and one in the diaphragm, and breathing in as slowly as possible and breathing out as slowly as possible. So this may be the easiest technique, and then they can practice and see what works for them. Then the second technique is journaling and affect labeling. So when we are talking about adolescent development and all the shifts and the challenges that are happening, so adolescents may sometimes not be able to verbalize what is going on within them, especially if they feel that people around them are not that supportive. And they may also feel that what they are experiencing is something that is personal to them, and they don't know whether others are also experiencing the same. So journaling is a very excellent technique where they can express themselves without having to talk to others. So while journaling, they can write down their emotions, if they are experiencing any form of intense emotions or anger, suppose, so they can just write down. So while they are writing down, it will help them to regulate. It will just open up their self-regulation. And the second is affect, like labeling. So while journaling, they can either write down or speak loudly about the emotion that they are experiencing. So sometimes adolescents may not know what is the exact emotion. So they may ask themselves that, okay, what is it that I'm experiencing? Okay, I'm experiencing anger right now. So in a way, they are acknowledging and labeling the emotion. So the next is physical activity and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So when we are talking about physical activity, so it's very important that especially adolescents are maintaining a healthy living through exercise, especially because if one is exercising regularly, it will tend to improve their body, of course, and also release of endorphins and reduce stress hormones. So physical activity, at least 30 minutes a day is advised for adolescents. Then maintaining healthy lifestyle. So maintaining a proper sleep schedule, then eating nutritious meal, balanced diet is very important. So along with that also comes time and task management. So adolescents, when they are able to navigate their day, when they are knowing that okay, this is planning their day better, so that also helps to reduce all the fluctuations or to deal with them better. Then we have creative outlets and grounding exercises. So when we are talking about creative outlets, it can be engaging in creative activities like art, music, coloring, uh, especially because it helps to help them express better, and also is a therapeutic way to calm themselves. Then comes grounding technique. So when we are talking about grounding technique, it is again like practicing mindfulness. So when we are talking about grounding, it helps them calm down. So what adolescents can do and how they can practice grounding is that they can focus on their senses. So maybe they can connect more with nature, they can go out, or even if they are in their room, they can try to focus on their senses, like okay, what are the 5 things that I can see around me, or what are the 5 things that I can hear around me right now. So the moment they do that, they can come back from their distressing thought to the present moment, and it will help them calm down. Then we have self-talk, reappraisal, and self-compassion. So when we are talking about managing fluctuations in adolescents' life, talking positively to yourself is very important. So when we are talking about positive self-talk, so it's important that when adolescents are going through a challenging time, they are able to talk to themselves in a positive way using affirmations. So telling themselves something like, you know, I can do it, I trust myself that I can complete this, or I believe that I have the strength to get over this. So some positive affirmations will help. Then we have cognitive reappraisal. So when we are talking about cognitive reappraisal, that is more about challenging their negative thought process to a more neutral or a positive one. So for example, an adolescent had a bad day and then they feel that, you know, nobody likes them, or they're having the sense of failure. So rather than having the negative thought, they can, you know, change it into a more positive one by having a positive conversation, like, not everything that happened today was bad, so it was just a event and I can overcome that. So challenging their negative thought to a more positive thought. Then the last is practicing self-compassion. So it's important that adolescents are aware that, you know, what they're going through is not something only they are experiencing, but it is an universal experience. So it's important that they are aware that struggles are part of everybody's life. So practicing self-compassion will help. And I'll be covering self-compassion in detail in another lecture. So this is the summary of the techniques that I just explained. So practicing deep breathing is important because it will help calm the nervous system. Then there is journaling and labeling of emotions, which will enhance awareness and also help to diffuse difficult emotions. Then physical activity and healthy lifestyle will boost mood and also help in chemical balance. Then practicing grounding, where it will help to return back to the present moment, help to bring the focus from distressing event to the present. Then I spoke about self-talk and reappraisal. So practicing self-talk and reappraisal will help in building resilience and reframing thoughts. Then we have social support, which is very important for adolescents, because as I explained, the Bronfenbrenner's ecological model that talked about how adolescents are living in an immediate environment with people around them, which shapes their development. So it's very important. Then in a situation where adolescents are not able to come out of their problems, it is suggested that they are, you know, seeking professional therapy, maybe by themselves, or they can also talk to their parents who can redirect them and help them out. So now we'll talk about the importance of support system. So I briefly told you already about why support system like the parents, peers, or, you know, school plays a very big influence, because one of the system that the adolescent stays is a school system. So they're going to the school every day, and then there is a lot of academic pressure as well. So when we are talking about all these pressures, so support system plays a big role. So let's see what parents and peers can do for adolescent well-being. So the first is parents. So how can parents you know, provide support to adolescents is when adolescents are coming to talk to them and, you know, share some problem or share anything with the parents. Parents can, you know, just actively listen without judgment, just sitting down and asking the child to share what they are experiencing. So this will, you know, provide adolescents, and they'll help them to feel that, you know, parents are a safe space where they can go and share. So this is a very important role. The second is where parents can model the emotional regulation. So of course parents are going through their stresses of their own. So when they're going through these challenges, what and how they are dealing with their own stress will also play a role, because again adolescents are learning by observing. So if they see that their parents are using some healthy coping methods, so this will help the adolescent to learn about them and apply them in their lives as well. Then there is setting boundaries. So when we are talking about boundaries, so as I said, adolescence is a time when they are exploring their independence, and they also try to detach themselves from their parents. So what parents can do is that they can give the independence to the adolescent, but also have some kind of monitoring so that they are aware of what the adolescent is going through. And the last is encouraging help seeking. So our society is filled with stigma related to mental health. So parents play a big role. So as I said, that parents can, actively listen and provide the space. But again, they cannot maybe help the adolescent come out of their problems totally. So they can guide their children to go and seek professional help. So that support helps with the positive outcome. So now let's look at how peers have a role in supporting the adolescent lives. So peers can avoid judgment. So when they are at school, when adolescents are meeting each other, talking about their problems, so of course they'll share. So again, peers, what they can do is talk to them without any judgment, providing a safe place where they feel that okay, I have friends with whom I can share my problems. Then the next is checking in regularly. So it's important that they check with each other how they are doing, how they are feeling, so that they can provide a support system where they can talk about what are the different ways in which they deal with their emotions or the changes that they are happening. So that is important. Then what they can do is model healthy coping methods. Like I said, they can share with each other about what they do to deal with their emotions, like maybe listening to music, walking, journaling. So they will also learn. So adolescents, while listening to their friends, they'll come back to their home and try these techniques. Then the last is peer advocacy. So in school, guiding friends to trusted adults when they are not able to help each other. So as I said, that school is a system and plays a very big role in the development of children. So academic pressure that comes along with it also has a effect, and it's important that we talk about it. So what are the different academic pressures that adolescents are experiencing? What are the mental health impacts? So let's look at that. So it's seen, like many researches over the years done shows that academic pressures have a lot of negative effect after a point. Little bit of academic pressure is required, but when it is too much, adolescents are unable to deal, which leads to stress, and especially the negative kind of stress, the distress. It can also lead to certain mental health conditions like anxiety, depression, or burnout. And in worst case scenarios, it can also lead to self-harm tendencies. Then there is also emotional health impact and identity formation, peer pressure. So as I said, that peers are living with each other in school, they are meeting, they're discussing, and teachers also has a role in that. So there's a lot of comparison that okay, this student is doing far better, this friend of mine has gotten this much grade and I got this much grade. So this constant comparison has a lot of effect on their self-esteem, the kind of identity that they develop about themselves, and how they view themselves as compared to other people in the society. Then we also have the social pressure and digital stress. So apart from school, there is social pressure to perform. So when they're going back, the adolescents are going back from their school to their home and maybe talking it out with parents and people around, the neighbors. So this constant pressure that many questions that come to them is, okay, what is their school performance? Okay, what will you do after your 10th? So this constant pressure plays a negative effect on that. And it is very important that schools, the microsystems, the school, the parents, the peers are aware of that. And that can only happen when there is information dissemination happening in the society in various ways. So it's very important that we as humans, we raise this mental health awareness in our society, and especially for adolescents it can be done in various ways. Like for schools, maybe they can conduct some workshops and peer support systems where they are teaching the students to learn how to deal with their changes, where they're teaching them the developments that they are going through. So this will help them to get the education they need, and also to raise their awareness regarding mental health. Then for parents, what can be done maybe is that schools can also organize, or maybe certain societies, they can come together and organize certain events where they're raising awareness about adolescent mental well-being, and also helping parents navigate, because they're also going through challenges about raising a adolescent. So teaching them as well. So with this, we are coming to an end of our lecture today. So let's summarize what we discussed in today's lecture. So first we understood what is adolescence, and then we looked at how different people define adolescence over the years, how it has been explained. Then we understood what are the different developments that are happening during adolescence in terms of biological, cognitive, emotional, social, relational. Then we looked at different theories, developmental theories that help us explain about the development in a deeper level. So we spoke about Erikson's theory, we spoke about how they seek independence, we spoke about their ego, then we went to Vygotsky's theory, we understood Piaget's cognitive theory where it explained about different distortions that occur, the imaginary audience and personal fable. We also looked at how the Bronfenbrenner's theory explains about how adolescents' lives are shaped by the immediate environment in which they stay. Then we looked at different pressures. We understood how academic pressures put a negative effect in the student's life, in adolescent's life, and how in a positive way they can navigate through these challenges by practicing certain techniques. We spoke about mindfulness techniques, we spoke about journaling, taking care of physical health, taking care of emotional health. So we spoke all these techniques, and we also explored the role of support systems. So with this we come to the end of our lecture. I'll meet you in the next lecture and we'll talk further about adolescence and different challenges. Thank you so much.